I hope you find some enjoyment from these ideas, and perhaps you can dig deeper and find out and learn more. But these are basically a gathering of my thoughts and things that ring true to me, but may not for others, and that's okay. So, where to begin? We live in a fallen world, right? That is the basic Christian worldview. Angels and demons, pretty popular, especially if you throw Tom Hanks in the midst. Anyways. One of the things I guess we could start out talking about is how there's a Christian debate whether Christians can have demons, can't have demons, whether they're on the person, inside the person, around the person, etc. And for me personally, after learning about parasites in my own personal body and doing a parasite cleanse for over a year, when some of those parasites died, I felt like I got delivered from some of these spirits. And sometimes it was a physical burden I could feel lifting off of me. Other times it was like feelings of things leaving, and other ways that I probably just can't describe. So that leads me to kind of speculate and think about what is more defining of a demon in the world that we live in than an actual parasite that lives in your body, lives off of your food, sucks your life energy, and to some extent is probably deciding what you eat, what you do to some extent. And that's an interesting one, because it's well documented nowadays that National Geographic, I believe somebody released a documentary talking about wetlands and how pretty much every single decision in the wetland can be controlled by a parasite. And maybe you could find that documentary or leave a comment below if you know exactly which one. But otherwise, there are other National Geographic documentaries out there that talk about parasites and how other things such as motorcyclists are prone to more risky behavior because of a certain type of parasite they have. And it talks about how parasites long for certain hosts, and they're not always intended to be in a human host. And I've heard that some parasites end up leaving cases of eczema because it's a way they're expressed, not the way they want to be expressed, because they're supposed to be in a different host. Anyways, you could do much more research into that, but I just wanted to talk some of these things. In the Bible, there's a verse where Jesus confronts a demoniac who was full of great strength. I believe it depends on which gospel you're reading, but it talks about how this demoniac, when Jesus spoke to him, what's your name? The demoniac replied, Legion, for we are many. So, and after that, it begged and pleaded that Jesus would not cast him out into dry places, but instead to a herd of swine. So, as the story goes, the herd of swine, after Jesus allows it, the herd of swine runs down a hill and then into the water and drowns itself, the entire herd. And a couple of things I find interesting about that. It's very common that pigs are full of parasites. And from more of my understanding, there's so many other things out there full of parasites, but pigs in general. So if you think about this, that there was actually a desire for these to run into the pigs, and then for the herd of pigs to run into the water or the sea or whichever one that may have been. How does this make any sense? What could it be? And this is where I'll speculate. This is just some thoughts. So Science has also told us that swimmer's itch is actually due to sometimes people get it from parasites. From soaking in water too long or from contaminated water. And these parasites burrow right underneath individual skins. So is it possible that with a word, Jesus commanded the unclean spirits to leave the man, inhabit the pigs, and the pigs to ultimately reach a wider audience, drown themselves into the water, and the water is a much more fluid host for the parasites, for the demons. Are demons one and the same? It's interesting. A lot of Western thinking wants to separate physical from spirit, and from my understanding, that's not the way the Jewish people in Jesus' day understood it, that everything was flesh and spirit, that one and the same, that we live in a world, not just a physical nature. Although, Madonna would have us believing we live in a material world and she's a material girl. And, Madonna was basically what they named Mary, but they twisted that all up in recent history and further clouded our minds with some imagery. So think about those layers there. Is it possible that so much of our world surrounding us is in fact ordered by parasites, and in fact those parasites are actually demons? So science has also established there's a gut-brain connection. We have actual neurons in our gut. From my experience, some of these parasites, it seems like they're talking directly to my head. If you talk to anybody who's done extensive parasite detox, parasite cleansing, there's individuals who talk about what a psychological battle it is, because these things are inside you, they're battling for their life, and they are directly connected to your brain. That is so deep. It is extremely difficult, because I know I had to have been close to some die-off moments in some of these parasites I've been battling. And in a moment of weakness, I go eat something that I know will fuel them. Not that I wanted to, but carbs and sugars keep these things kicking around a bit longer than normal. So how much of our medical information is a direct correlation to that? That's what I wonder too. Because it seems like all the health suggestions out there create an environment where these parasites can thrive. And in a lot of ways, they've flown under the radar so much that unless you get a parasite from another country, nobody in America thinks they got parasites. And that's probably couldn't be farther from the truth. Nobody wants to think about it. And like Scott Webb in his book, which I highly suggest, Intestinal Parasites and the Meaning of Life, nobody wants to think grandma could possibly have had parasites her entire life. I don't know, guys. I guess I'll just have to make a part 2 of this sometime, but those are just some basic thoughts that I wanted to get out there and hear some feedback from you guys. Leave a comment. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks, guys.